Well, the good thing is the industry has grown and they've woken up that we have to invest in technology because of labor shortages, labor costs. You can't really control the cost of materials, right? What can you control? Labor, right? What can you control? Rework. What can you control? Better trust and transparency so you can reduce insurance claims. You can improve payments on time for what the work that you delivered. So how can you use technology to build that trust and transparency? Because you have multiple stakeholders working on a job site. Remember the first industry event, I'm like, why are there so many lawyers? There's so much litigation. There's so much claims. Payments are held up, withheld. Insurance costs goes up. There's so much risk. Technology is a way to build trust and transparency up and down a project so people can be paid for what they've done, get paid on time, avoid costly litigation, and don't waste the labor's team in these battles. Have them focusing on doing what they do best, which is delivering the work.
When you have only 5 accounts or 10 accounts, you have to spend so much time on fostering them, right? How do you structure KPIs? Because they seem like they have to be more qualitative rather than quantitative in this case for sales reps if there is only 5 major accounts. How do you structure KPIs for salespeople?
Yeah, you don't get to 5 accounts. I mean, that's a good problem to have. That happens like years later, right? But focus matters. So if you get in with a couple key accounts, you don't have to land 1 million accounts, right? Land some accounts, but continue to stay with them and expand them. The reps should drive the renewal. They've built the trust of the client. They shouldn't hand it off to a CSM. They should see the customer through its entire life cycle, right? Be that trusted advisor. So and that's the other thing. It's not just hiring reps. It's building a scalable model. So as you grow the business, it funds more growth, right? You can skip raising capital rounds. You can pay for your own growth because if you're growing deal sizes, you're growing also the number of accounts.
How do you know you should hire a new sales talent?
Yeah. So when to hire is typically when, as Martin was saying earlier, they can't even get to every account, right? They land some accounts, they're going deeper and wider, and all of a sudden these other great accounts or these leads are coming in and no one can touch them. And obviously, so I look at rep attainment. Are people hitting their goals, right? Hitting their goals, beating their goals, right? And that quickly becomes they're only working and expanding paying accounts. Okay. So it's market potential, right? Okay, great. Reps are hitting their goals. Is extreme high potential, and we're not touching all these greenfield accounts or accounts that look like that, so they should be successful, right? We have a handle on our forecast. We're confidently we can hit our numbers, and we're doing it in a scalable fashion so that new ARR per head count, we're not overspending or burning, right? So it's just simple. Are reps hitting their goals, right? Are we not getting to the accounts that we believe we can sell today and be successful, right? Are we confident with our forecast? And are we doing it in a scalable model? Right. So that's why I'd hire.
How do you hire the right VP of sales then?
Yeah. So this is the number one question I get from every CEO. And the thing is understanding a go-to-market in this industry. You may see $1 billion GCs, $100 million companies. Wow, these are enterprise clients. They are enterprise business, but you really should be hiring a mid-market rep, someone that can do the work, land accounts, transact, and expand. And they're helping the client post-sale, not an enterprise rep that expects all these resources, which are extremely costly. And customers do not go in this industry. Like we said earlier, it's easy to start a pilot. They don't go from spending nothing with you to $200,000 a year or $500,000 a year. You got to prove it out. Will they spend 10, 20, 30K with you? Sure. But man, you got to prove it out then, right? So you have to hire someone that is willing to do the work. They can transact, land accounts, expand them, and continue to expand them. So I love, do they have experience with a land and expand or a bottoms up selling motion?
Yeah.
Are they willing to go in person, versus sit behind Zoom? Get off Zoom, get off your pajamas, go in person.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Hey everyone, and welcome to the Bricks Bytes Podcast, where we dive into construction and AEC technology. Before we get started though, if you're a startup founder or operator responsible for innovation in your company, or you want a deeper, more insightful look into technology in AEC, you won't want to miss our newsletter. From deep dives into particular technologies such as AI, robotics, design, software, and so on. Hot takes from investors betting big in AEC technology, and advice on building tech companies, including the stories and takeaways of the most successful AEC technology founders. Head over to www.bricks-bytes.com and sign up today to get this exclusive material straight to your inbox. And now for the episode. This episode is brought to you by Build Vision, transforming construction supply chain by bringing contractors, manufacturers, and stakeholders onto a single software platform. Visit buildvision.io to find out more. Are you interested in finding out how companies scale past the $10 million ARR ceiling? This episode is one of the number of episodes forming part of our new go-to-market guide, which reveals how industry leaders scaled past the stubborn $10 million ARR mark using strategies specifically designed for AEC. Discover the proven land and expand blueprint, pricing models at work, and real case studies from companies with significant exits. To get your copy, visit www.bricks-bytes.com/GTM. All right, Kevin. I think this took us some time to set up. I remember we had a WhatsApp call, I don't know, a few months ago, and we finally managed to get a date in the diary. So thank you very, very much for joining us. This is actually, we had been doing this go-to-market mini-series. You are the last participant.
Oh wow! I'm honored and humbled to be on your podcast. I know I've been following you guys for a while. I think it's great what you're doing to just bring more attention to people doing interesting things in this space, because it's a unique space, and how you build for it, how you go to market in it, and I think you guys are really building a great brand for yourself.
Appreciate it. Thank you. Okay, we joked before that you were going to be in London in June, and I said that we could do an 8-hour podcast with you, but sadly we only have 1 hour today, so we're going to try and get through as much as we can.
Can always come back.
Okay, so let's do this. So Kevin, where did it begin for you? Where did this construction tech journey? I know you had your own company and then heavily now involved with go-to-market. So perhaps you can tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, about 15 plus years ago, I moved from the East Coast to the West Coast for a job in actually biotech strategic account sales. But that's where in Silicon Valley, I got exposed to software and the power of software. And it was the very early days of mobile. And I created and the sharing economy too. And I created a company with 2 co-founders around really digitizing the supply chain and building a marketplace around equipment rental for the construction industry. So we were working predominantly with civil infrastructure companies and self-perform. And we were on the same job sites of, top, field workers that were also using other early mobile applications, such as PlanGrid. So we built a great platform with a very small team. We actually had a couple M&A acquisition offers. We worked with a lot of leading contractors, such as Granite Construction and others. And we worked with the top suppliers, which were publicly traded companies, as well as regional players that, such as CAT, that have a lot of regional divisions. So it was a great opportunity to understand how to bring to market tools for this industry that is not sitting behind a desk, is not sitting, inside an office. They are outside in all elements, in all conditions, and the challenges of delivering software for people that are on site. Right. And very far away, maybe from their office, others, and even on a project. And that company was gettable, and we raised money from institutional VCs. Eventually, I decided to leave that company. I was on a job in, near Palm Springs, but the desert in Southern California, and some large infrastructure projects. And I was exposed to PlanGrid on the job site. And there's senior superintendent that's very well respected in the industry said, "Hey, Kevin, your company Gettable is saving us a lot of money bidding out work to our suppliers, finding availability, giving us that trust and transparency to manage our heavy equipment. and save us time and money. However, this company is changing how we deliver projects and execute projects. And we have a big labor shortage, and we can do more with less. And that company is PlanGrid. And I got exposed to it. And this was not a tech savvy workforce. And I said, hey, I didn't think you really love software. And he said, it's not software, it's a tool. It's a tool to make my teams more efficient. And I had the pleasure of getting to know the early founders of PlanGrid, Tracy Young, Ralph, and Ryan. And they had built a great culture, a great company, and they were really focused. They came from the industry on providing value for people on the front lines, those site superintendents, those project managers, those foremen. And I love the idea of...
Hey listeners, I want to take a quick break to remind you about the Bricks and Bytes newsletter. If you're interested in learning about the technology shaping the future of construction, you won't want to miss the valuable insights we share each week. To get this exclusive content delivered straight to your inbox, head over to www.bricks-bytes.com and sign up today. Link is in the show notes. Back to the show.
Really providing a lot of value to the end users. So I ultimately ended up, leading my own company to join PlanGrid around $5 million and help scale that company to 100 million.
Yeah. So Kevin, when you joined there at 5 million ARR?
Yes.
And you led the charge to scale to 100.
Yeah. So I joined to work for Tracy Young, as well as Bill Smith, who was the president. And we helped build out that go-to-market team in the US and globally, and put in the model that I see in the market of really it's a local regional business. Yes, there's global contractors and owners, but predominantly the business is a regional business. Think about it. You have a project, and people can, if you're working on a project, you probably got to be within driving distance, right? 1 to 2 hours. So it's going to be a lot of regional, contractors, general contractors, subcontractors, and owners. And even the national contractors, their regional offices are making a lot of the buying decisions. They're running their own business unit, their own P&L, right? So having that ecosystem in the community, as well as that ecosystem on the project, there's not one project that's built with one company. It's many companies that are on a project or collaborating even off the project to support this. So it's a very unique market of how you go to market. So yeah, it was a great experience building out that model and how we go to market around landing, expanding projects into enterprise agreements, putting people in market to be the face of the company, be the brand, visit project sites, visit the local regional offices, attend industry events, really become a trusted advisor in that community.
Mm-hmm. Kevin, can you tell us a little bit about how different are sales at 5 million IRR to 100 million IRR?
I think
a lot of everyone wants to know how to get.
Tell us the one word answer.
So it's multifaceted, but construction go-to-market is a really unique market compared to other industry verticals and other things in B2B SaaS. One of the things is all the money to pay for technology is at the project level. The project is where you make money or lose money, right? There's very little budget typically at the headquarters level, right? So you have to understand the value, the ROI at the project level, build those business cases, and then connect the project ROI to the enterprise business initiatives and what kind of outcomes they're looking to get across their entire project portfolio, right? So if you're building those business cases, you're getting real feedback from the field and connecting that to the operations leaders, the business unit leaders, the C-suite, so they can understand how they could scale up this across all their projects to drive efficiencies and positive business outcomes. That's what you got to do. The other thing, what's unique about the market is, as I said, how do you pay for it? Are you billing it per project? Are you billing it to the owner? Are you billing it per employee? So just understanding the value at the project level, how it ties into these exact business initiatives, and then how do you pay for it internally? Mm-hmm. And that's very unique.
Yeah. So scaling it from the providing the value at the project level to then explaining it to the top of the management, perhaps to scale it throughout the organization. Mm-hmm. How do these conversations look like, and how much does it take? And give us some secret sauce on how to speed it up.
Yeah. So this is an in-person business. At PlanGrid, we had over 75 people in the field, quota carrying reps. That did not include the extended team of solution engineers, customer success, business development reps. We put basically a core team in every major metro. So there's 26 major metros in North America, right? From Toronto and New York City to LA and San Francisco. So these teams could be the face of PlanGrid or that company in that market. Those teams, it's an in-person business. They went to project sites to understand their needs, their challenges, how they could provide value, build that trust. And then they visited the company's offices. They attended industry events to understand what are the challenges locally in that market? What are some common themes? But in my mind, there's too often companies are building team, and this is not just for construction, there's other industries that are on site. This is a physical real world industry. In order to understand the customer's needs and business challenges, you got to go on site. You got to go visit projects. You got to do job site walks. These projects have software is the smallest cost. Labor, rework, risk around insurance claims, change orders and actually getting paid, right? The distance traveling and collaborating across projects and the never ending labor shortage. So not to mention there's a retiring workforce of people with those years of experience. How can you level up this talent? How can you attract talent to the market, right? So if software could be one of the lowest expense and the real risk is schedule and rework and labor, man, you have to build that trust that if they invest in the software, how are they going to be supported post-agreement? How are they going to deploy it? How are they going to get adoption at scale? How are they going to reach their business outcomes across their entire portfolio? And that is why adoption of software easily, you don't teach someone how to use Amazon, is imperative. It always has to work. It has to be fast, has to be easy to use, and it has to scale, whether the project is large, small, or some way in between.
Mm-hmm. Kevin, so you mentioned $5 million. Yep. I'm going to mention this point. I'm not sure how it relates to the question, but I'll figure that out as I speak. So most companies in construction tech struggle to get past the 10 million ARR mark, right? That seems to be a kind of a common sticking point for a lot of companies. So around about the $5 million mark, to your point earlier, my understanding of what you said was that from the 5 to 100 million mark, maybe at the 5 million mark, you're focusing more on the project scale level. And but then to exceed that and go up towards and beyond 10, 20, 30, 40, you have to focus more on enterprise level and how the products and technology and software benefits the enterprise, right? That's what you're saying. That's my
you can't really get to 100 million fast. I mean, we got from 5 to 90 in 3 years and 5 to 120 million in 4 years. Right? You can't get that scale by closing 5, 10K transactions, right? It takes forever. Also, projects churn. It's easy to get a pilot in this industry, a paid pilot, which is basically a project, but then you got to build the business case.
Quick break to let you know, if you're getting value from this conversation, we've compiled insights like these into our comprehensive construction tech go-to-market guide. Inside, you'll find the exact frameworks top AEC tech companies use to break past the $10 million ARR mark, detailed case studies from successful exits, and actionable playbooks for pricing, sales team structure, and enterprise expansion. Head to www.bricksbytes.com/GTM and transform how you approach growth in construction tech. Now back to our conversation.
And then you have to turn it into an enterprise agreement. So you may have multiple projects, and that's what I call like a land and expand selling motion. You're landing multiple projects or multiple paid pilots, and you have to quickly get that into enterprise agreement because the project dollars are small and And if you can't prove the value in a reasonable amount of time, 2 weeks, 30 days, 90 days, you may run out of money as a startup. You may have a 2-year roadmap, a 2-year burn, but you also need to be raising capital maybe 6 to 9 months in advance. So you have to have, because I've raised capital in this industry, right, in my own startup, right, and raised multiple rounds. You really need to prove the value in the first 12 to 18 months, right? So if you're not landing enough project pilots, you're not expanding them into an enterprise deal, proving that out, you're going to run out of runway. These projects are going to churn. And that's what you see in this industry. Typically, there's always going to be some churn, but there's heavy churn. And the reason how we went to PlanGrid is we built that enterprise expansion motion. How to tie the project value to the business value, how to pay for it internally, while we continually to drive a ton of adoption. So customers pay for usage, right? We drove more usage, more users, more projects, more stakeholders collaborating, and documented that value. What were the metrics for success? What were the real cold hold dollars in their terms, not made up ROI? And how did that tie to their biggest initiatives? Maybe it was labor, maybe it was rework, maybe it was a better owner-client relationship. And then have to do that quickly in a scalable way. So just a repeatable playbook around running paid pilots, a land and expand into enterprise deals. When you have accounts coming up for renewal, getting ahead of it, not 90 days in advance, getting ahead of it 9 months in advance, maybe even 18 months in advance to build out that business case to close a larger deal. You can close a 5, 10, 20K deal. Heck, in construction, you could swipe with a credit card, which we saw all the time at PlanGrid. But because really it's a drop in the bucket to these projects. But how are you going to get someone to pay 100K a year, 200, 300, 500K a year, right? Across multiple projects or a portfolio or across an entire company? Man, oh man, you better have a business case. You better support your project level champions so that they can grow their careers. And pretty much all the champions that we worked with, they've all grown their careers. They're the director of field operations. They're a VP. They're a COO at these companies. It's been amazing to see them grow their careers. We supported them to make their pod success, help them build the business case. And I don't see enough of these startups focusing on understanding the business value, connecting it high enough, understanding how to pay for it, right? And just not going high enough. So you're closing, the best renewal is no renewal. So closing a 3-year agreement, right? Expanding it in a realistic amount of fashion to get into an enterprise agreement, even just a portion of their business, a regional office, one division, 100 million of a $500 million business, right? And then they stop too. Just because you close the first transaction, you rarely get the whole business. Post sale, continue to expand it. That's why it's the land account, but continue to expand. Because projects start and stop all the time. You cannot get a contractor's whole business in the first transaction, right? They're not going to deploy a technology midstream. And projects are anywhere from 18 months to 3 years, right? Typically, on average. So you're going to land a small portion of their business. But if, as you said, you're going to get above 10 million, you're going to get that next round. Yes, you have to continue to land other new accounts. But the fastest way to go up market, to get to 100 million, to get to the next round, go from 10 to 40 to 100 to 120 is to get more per client, per transaction, because you only have so many salespeople. So make every transaction count, every renewal count, every customer count. Make them look good internally. Make them understand the value. Make them successful. So that means landing that account, but continue to expand it over multiple months, multiple years, not just at renewal, past renewal. Because if they can see that they've, driven a ton of usage from the first transaction to the renewal, people pay for that. Wow, my teams are using a ton of it. Wow, here's the value they're getting per person or per project. I'm happy to expand. I'm happy to pay more for the software. You have you have to get to a point where you're delivering value and you can charge, more for your software across the business, but you've driven that usage and adoption across the business. You've earned the right.
I have at least 20 questions as a result of that.
I got only 4, but I'm pretty sure we're on the same page.
Go on, Mike.
Well, no, that's the thing. When I joined PlanGrid and I said, hey, you're selling a lot of projects. These are 1-year deals to 18 months. It's great that you have a lot of project champions and field champions, but it's going to take you 10 years to get to 100 million. Mm-hmm. I don't want to take 10 years. We're going to do it in 3 or 4.
Nice.
And we do that by customers not paying us 20K, customers paying us 100K, 200K, 500K as we grow the business with them and become true trusted partners. Right? So, they're not just using it on a couple projects. They're using it how to run their business, how to drive project excellence, operational excellence across their business.
I don't know if this is the right question, but I will ask it. How do you know that you can start going from project level to the enterprise level? And is it always the case that everyone should, at any point, pitch to the enterprise level? And what is the inflection point, perhaps, that folks should be paying attention to catch it, so then they should be confident enough to be able to go to the enterprise level?
Well, the good thing is the industry has grown and they've woken up that we have to invest in technology because of labor shortages, labor costs. You can't really control the cost of materials, right? What can you control? Labor, right? What can you control? Rework. What can you control? Better trust and transparency so you can reduce insurance claims. You can improve payments on time for the work that you delivered. So how can you use technology to build that trust and transparency? Because you have multiple stakeholders working on a job site. Remember the first industry event, I'm like, why are there so many lawyers? There's so much litigation. There's so much claims. Payments are held up, withheld. Insurance costs goes up. There's so much risk. Technology is a way to build trust and transparency up and down a project so people can be paid for what they've done, get paid on time, avoid costly litigation, and don't waste the labor's team in these battles. Have them focusing on doing what they do best, which is delivering the work. So how do you get to the higher up execs? Those are the business outcomes they're looking for. So it's listening. It's discovery. I was a former mechanical engineer, but I went right into delivering new products to market in biotech. I got into biotech because my dad was sick growing up. And so I changed my career to bring life-saving products to market, right? And it was very fulfilling. But ultimately, I wanted to go back to industry that I was really passionate about, which was building the future housing, hospitals, infrastructure of tomorrow, right? So what I see happen just in general sales, people talk more, talk too much, talk about their product versus just being inquisitive, being curious. People started to view me as a construction expert. How did I learn so quickly? I just ask questions. Be a learner. Have the humility that you don't know everything. And my God, these people on job sites, 10, 20, 30 years, be an apprentice. And I would ask questions at the project level and enterprise level. Hey, what are some of your biggest challenges on the job site? What is the stuff that keep you up at night? What are you trying to accomplish it, right? How can what I'm delivering tie to one of those business objectives? And same thing at the enterprise level, right? Here's what we're hearing from your projects. The enterprise level, they may not even be getting that feedback from the projects. They can't be everywhere. What are you looking to do? What's keeping you at night? And I was with a top ENR 400 GC last week. They said, hey, I understand our project is getting value with your platform here, here, and here. I agree with that, labor productivity, that owner-client relationship. But Kevin, my projects teams don't even know this is one of our top enterprise business objectives here is around punch list, is around getting paid for a lot of money that's tied up with these project turnovers. If you can solve that, boom, it unlocks millions of dollars for our business. That's what's top of mind for our C-suite, right? So you don't even have if you're not talking to project teams, you're not talking to, the operations teams, you're not talking to the C-suite, how can you connect the dots internally on their end to tie the business value together? So it's really listening, it's discovery, it's asking those questions, it's always being curious, that kind of open-ended, how, why, tell me more, right? How do you quantify that value? How often does this happen? I'll use an example. Hey, you always assume some of these technologies improve labor. When you go higher up of execs, labor is like actually a smaller dollar amount to them. And I was talking to some recent CFOs of some of the top specialty contractors and general contractors. And they said, Kevin, I know your product already saves us a ton of money with labor, with travel, and really helps us collaborate, not just internally, but with all of our stakeholders like our owners. But I got to tell you something that is much bigger dollars. Every project has a minimum of at least one change order, and we do 400 projects or more per year. An average change order for us can be upwards of $100,000. Wow. This is millions of dollars. This is what keeps the executive team at night. Not to mention that $100,000 of payment. What's the hourly cost of that workforce, right? So the dollars are much bigger. So ask those questions like, okay, what's a change order cost? How many change orders do you have in a project? How many projects do you have? What's the impacts to your business? Is it just the change order? Is it you got to get a lawyer involved? What's their billable rate? Starting to quantify that. And I've always been surprised when you ask those questions. The dollars that is at risk is always bigger than you believe. But now you've understood their business. You've understood what's keeping them up at night. And you can hopefully tie your product to one of those big initiatives.
Nice.
Very interesting. Like, as you speak, it seems like it's a full-time job for one person to just manage one account, perhaps all across the whole enterprise.
Martin, it's a great question. See, you're inquisitive too. Typically in sales, I need a ton of accounts. A rep cannot handle 200 accounts or provide that world-class customer service. They can probably support 5 to 10 enterprise accounts as a true customer service. I think every rep should feel like a CSM, a customer success manager. You want your customers to be successful, adopt the technology, reach their business outcomes. If your customers are successful, you will earn the right to expand with them, expand to more users, more projects, and have them pay you more. You have to earn it by treating everyone, as you want them to be successful. It's not about you. So act like a CSM. And you're right. How we were successful at PlanGrid was, yes, we added a lot more boots on the street to build those trusted relationships with clients, but also work on less accounts. I remember one of my top reps, he's, oh my God, I don't have enough accounts. As you said, okay, let's talk about some of the accounts you're working, right? You're working with a very small part of their business. Let's reduce your account list to these 20 that you have already built relationships with. Reducing his account list from like 100 to 20 and got some of these other accounts that he couldn't reach, was barely touching, wasn't going deep enough, wide enough, high enough, having, being too single threaded, getting to know the entire business at all different levels, all divisions. Guess what? He doubled what he brought into the company in 1 year and continued on that path. By the way, those other accounts, you hired new reps to work that, so they drove new business. So you're constantly adding new boots on the street to land new logos and expand them and getting smaller and smaller accounts per rep. So because you're expanding them and you're growing with them. Because by the way, some of these big accounts, they're buying companies, they're growing their business. And as I said earlier, there's no way you're going to sell to the entire company day one.
It's very interesting because, and just allow me for that one, because it seems like when you have only 5 accounts or 10 accounts, you have to spend so much time on fostering them, right? How do you structure KPIs? Because they seem like they have to be more qualitative rather than quantitative in this case for sales reps if there is only 5 major accounts. How do you structure KPIs for salespeople?
Yeah, you don't get to 5 accounts. I mean, that's a good problem to have. That happens like years later, right? But focus matters. So if you get in with a couple key accounts, you don't have to land 1 million accounts, right? Land some accounts, but continue to stay with them and expand them. The rep should drive the renewal. They've built the trust of the client. They shouldn't hand it off to a CSM. They should see the customer through its entire life cycle, right? Be that trusted advisor. So and that's the other thing, it's not just hiring reps, it's building a scalable model. So as you grow the business, it funds more growth, right? You can skip raising capital rounds. You can pay for your own growth because if you're growing deal sizes, you're growing also the number of accounts. So new logo ARR, expansion ARR. Those are the two metrics, right? You landing accounts and number of accounts, number of new logos, the ARR associated with that. Existing accounts, you're expanding them mid-contract and at renewal, that all that new ARR. And then you have to look at the retention rate of that existing business. But that expansion, to Owen's point earlier, if you increase the expansion percentage at renewal and you increase the new logo ARR, man, you're going to get there a lot faster, right? So what I look at is just building a scalable, efficient model is that, its common metric is 3 to 5x OTE. So your quota, if you're getting paid $200,000 a year, your quota needs to be $600K to $1 million in new business, right? That pays for that individual, that pays for the extended team to support them, as well as builds a return for the business. So it's all about new business. So if you have that scalable model, and then you also have to look at ratios, right? Ratios of solution engineers. Solution engineering is a game changer because they typically come from the industry, know the workflows. And I believe in hiring reps that just really know sales. How to do discovery, how to run a sales process, a buying process, right? The best B2B SaaS salespeople. We can teach them the industry, right? Hey, if you came from the industry and you learn how to sell, well, guess what? You're a double whammy. But that usually happens over several years, right? So investing in reps, investing in sales engineering, investing in a bench, business development reps in market so you can promote and career path from within. So, but it creates this scalable model that you can rinse and repeat. But don't overcomplicate comp. Don't overcomplicate and don't add too much of an extended team because that increases the cost of sale. So you really want to look at what's the new ARR per headcount, right? And just the number of headcount you have in the field, and then it's a pure math equation.
What's the name of your book, Kevin?
What? Oh, I don't have a book.
You need to. You need to.
You should.
Maybe we'll help you create this.
Yeah. Hey, we can collaborate together. Yeah.
What was I gonna ask about?
No, but Martin, these are great questions because that's, I get pinged a lot from CEOs. I love seeing as a startup, your former startup, I want to see every company succeed, right? It is a lot of time and risk to start your own company, right? You guys start your own podcast, right? To raise capital, to hire talent, to build something, to leave a company, for something that is, you're getting paid less. You have, probably worse benefits. There's a lot of risk for starting any small business. Until you start a small business, you don't know how challenging it is or the pressure that on you to pay for payroll, right? Raise the next round of capital. So I'm always there for CEOs in this space to call me and reach out to see around go-to-market advice. And it's, as you said, Owen, earlier, it is typically around that 5 to 10 million. Maybe they've just raised their Series A. So they sold some early customers. They have some revenue that's predominantly an R&D and engineering team with a couple maybe junior salespeople. Where do I go from here? I just raised some capital. And what I see time and time again is they hire the wrong VP of sales, the wrong hiring profile. They hire the wrong profile for reps. And guess what? They burn a ton of capital, but they waste time. And time is money. And then you run out of capital and you no longer exist. So if you hire the wrong VP of sales or CRO a couple times, you're toast. And I see that happening time and time again.
Yeah, how do you hire the right VP of sales then?
Yeah. So this is the number one question I get from every CEO. And the thing is understanding a go-to-market in this industry. You may see $1 billion GCs, $100 million companies. Wow, these are enterprise clients. They are enterprise business, but you really should be hiring a mid-market rep, someone that can do the work, land accounts, transact, and expand. And they're helping the client post-sale, not an enterprise rep that expects all these resources, which are extremely costly. And customers do not go in this industry. Like we said earlier, it's easy to start a pilot. They don't go from spending nothing with you to $200,000 a year or $500,000 a year. You got to prove it out. Will they spend 10, 20, 30K with you? Sure. but man, you got to prove it out then, right? So you have to hire someone that is willing to do the work. They can transact, land accounts, expand them, and continue to expand them. So I love, do they have experience with a land and expand or a bottoms up selling motion?
Yeah.
Are they willing to go in person, versus sit behind Zoom? Get off Zoom, get off your pajamas, go in person.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Because this, I might be I might not have knowledge in this, in sales, in construction tech, but it is counterintuitive when you speak about this, land and expand, to a salesperson, at least in my understanding, when people are kind of salesy and they're trying to sell and move on and go to the next one. This approach is nothing like that. It requires very deep understanding of person on the other side and just expanding, expounding, and drilling.
Yeah, even if a customer says, "Hey, Kevin, I want to from the get-go go enterprise-wide," I say no. I said, "Hey, I want to build a long-term partnership. You got several $100 million of projects. You can't even roll that out all at once. Let's prove it out. Have you see your value in your terms, your metrics, right? Let's understand how best to roll it out. Is it over a 3-year period where you're gradually ramping? You got to prove out a couple business units so then you can really get the whole company buy-in. Let's think long-term. Hey, at OpenSpace where I'm at, the time to value is instant. The ROI is huge. Right. So I've never seen this before where it goes from within the 30 days. Wow. We've proved it out on one project. Let's scale this company wide. And second, the adoption with the platform, the scale, the usability, same thing. Hey, we didn't even have to, hire a services team or implementation team. And within the first 12 months, just naturally, it went to 80% of the company. I've never seen this before. The time to value is instant, the adoption and just spread of this technology, because it is easy to use. The ROI is big, but that's not normal, right? And to go from a paid pilot to an enterprise deal, that is a best case scenario, but even just assume that you want to prove it out and grow with that client over time. Don't ask for everything right away. Earn the business, earn the right, and help your champion be successful. The second thing here is, what's unique about the hiring profile is I don't like hiring typically, hire this, this sales leader from, nothing against Salesforce, from Salesforce or one of these top tech companies. They have a brand in the space. When you have a startup, you have to build the brand. No one knows you. You got to earn those early clients, which is hard to do. Yeah. You got to build those references and referrals. So I like hiring. My profile is hungry, humble, smart, with the fire in the belly to get up in the morning and do something special, right? That competitive drive to find a way to win. No excuses, find a way to win. But it's that fire in the belly. What drives you? When I interview someone, I always say, just why do you want to work here? I shut up, I listen. What drives them? Personally, professionally.
Yeah. Kevin, I had a quick question back to the point on it does tie in with the hiring bit, but when you're speaking and you're expanding your accounts, who should be leading the conversations of expanding? Like, for example, would you put like an account executive speaking to like the executive about their wider business goals? In my head, that doesn't necessarily make sense. So,
and you're straight on, and that's why some of the biggest hires for me is the frontline teams. It's a solution engineer who can build that trust with the workflows and understand and help with the discovery. It is the account executive that can help building the business case, right? But then it's the frontline manager. That is the person that should be the best enterprise seller, and that person should be brought in to speak to the executives. Just like your project champion is leveling you up, you need to bring up someone more senior, right? And the larger account, next you may be bringing in the VP of sales or CRO. You may be bringing in the CEO as well. But that front line, that was one of the, there's many key things we did at PlanGrid to scale the company, which is same playbook I put in an Autodesk, go from 100 to 500 million, same playbook I'm going to put in here. So there's multiple ways that we invested in. And yeah, that's probably a larger conversation. One of the core things is the frontline management team. They're hiring, developing, and enabling, new hires, but they should be the best enterprise sellers to level up the conversation, help those deals across the finish line while the rep is learning from them.
Mm-hmm.
And you say, oh, well, the best reps don't need the help. The best reps are in the best deals, the largest deals. You spend more time with them. You want time with a sales leader? You want time with me? I say, bring me deals. Bring me the largest deals. You get more of my time. I loved working with a gentleman, Dave Barden, who's now the VP of sales at Sewer.ai. He was really one of my early directs, one of my first right hands. Man, he built his own pipeline. That's another thing, Martin. You got to be able to build your own pipeline. Don't expect all these leads. Create your own destiny. Built his own pipeline. I'd help him with my contacts in the space, and he brought me all these big deals. I spent more time with him because he may be getting a VP. How can you leverage me to meet with the CEO? How can we have a bigger conversation? I'm supporting teams across the nation. So I have a great perspective across not just all the deals, all these different types of accounts. I'm also there talking about a partnership. I'm not getting in the weeds around pricing. I care about having this customer for 3 years, 6 years, 9 years. I'm very proud of the customer relationships that I have. They're the same customers that, were early at PlanGrid, joined our advisory board, at PlanGrid. I stayed at Autodesk much longer than expected because I wanted to take care of my employees and make sure they grew their careers and had the option to stay. But it was also due to my customers. I got them on the construction advisory boards. I got them access to R&D in the roadmap. I got them the influence within a large publicly traded company. I got them a seat at the table. So that partnership with clients, that long-term partnership, that's why I've stayed in the industry. These are friends. Whether you're the CIO of DPR, the CFO of ISIC, or the companies go on, it's like whether you're going to an industry event, it's like seeing old friends. And that's why I'm back at building a company, because obviously moving up the ranks at Autodesk, you're dealing with more organization things and politics and bureaucracy. You're not on the front lines as much, meeting with the people that are actually building. I really miss that. So I love being back, but you have to have a frontline management team that is comfortable going on site with customers, that are comfortable leveling up and talking to executives, and you have that escalation path because they're escalating it within their company as well.
Mm-hmm. Kevin, you said that you're not getting into the weeds of pricing because you're looking at the long-term relationship. Can you expand on that? Is pricing not relevant for you? And explain this approach.
Yeah, I'll always help, price and package. Pricing and packaging is another way that, accelerated growth. And that's more, how can we price and package the platform to align with their business outcomes and how they pay for it internally?
So that's conversation.
Right?
That's not saying that, this costs this costs X amount.
Yeah. That's more how you package in the strategic go-to-market. When you're talking to pricing with clients, I will work with my account teams to structure the business case and the value delivered and how we can maximize value and have a win-win agreement, right? So I will help them construct the agreement. But when I'm in with an executive, I'm more concerned that we are aligned with their business outcomes. We are aligned around the post-sale support and rollout so they can be successful, that we're a culture fit. I don't want them treating my teams poorly. I'll fire a client. I don't have to do business with everyone. So I want to have a culture fit and respect for each other. I also want to have a ton of fun. Like, life is short. Let's provide a ton of impact at your company and grow both of our businesses together. Let's have a long-term relationship. Let's build a friendship. Life is too short. So I am looking for that long-term partnership. We're going to invest in them. I want them to invest in us as well.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Because you can't roll out everything at once, Martin. What technology vendors need to realize, you're competing against each other, not your competition. What's the highest priority at the company? You're not going to roll out 6 solutions at once. You're going to pick 1 or 2 to roll out company-wide at a time. So how can you be the highest priority?
Okay, maybe can you tell us a little bit about nuances of contact go-to-market with the reference to your experience with biotech sales? Maybe is there something that we in construction tech go-to-market should learn from the outside of the industry?
Yeah, biotech was where I learned that you could provide a lot of value to saving the healthcare system money, providing a better client experience in terms of the patient, driving efficiencies. But if you don't understand how to reimburse it or pay for it, it doesn't go anywhere. So a great example, we had a IV antibiotic that's life-saving, and you could transition out of a hospital with an oral antibiotic 2 weeks sooner. Well, that's big dollars from a healthcare system, less days in the hospital to reduce infection risk for a immune compromised patient. And it's also very better for the family. You're at home, right? It seems like a no-brainer, but who's getting reimbursed? Who's getting paid? And if the economics and the business model are aligned, it may never happen. So understanding who's paying, where the budget is, how do you get paid for your service or your solution is extremely important. The other thing was these people have been successful for years, whether it's treating a patient or building a hospital. They're successful. Why change, right? Why change? So you need to have a really big example to change, right? This is 10x better, right? To get their time, get their attention, and change what they've been doing for 20 years because they've been successful. You're just saying, hey, here's how you can be more successful or give you some time back, to spend more time with your family, right? Or just focus on get rid of some of this like paperwork or some of this bureaucracy or this inefficiency so you can focus on what you enjoy doing, which is building, or in this case, treating a patient, right? But all these people work very hard for a living, long days. So the ROI could be reduce burnout, reduce people leaving the industry, which is real in both industries, because maybe they can, with this technology, get home 2 hours earlier. There's a shortage of healthcare workers. There's a shortage of contractors. What's one of those reasons? People leave the industry due to burnout, due to time away from family. So imagine if you have technology that you maybe don't always have to visit a job site, so you get more time with family. Maybe you have a technology that drives a lot of efficiency so you can be home earlier. That actually helps a company. One of the CIO of former CIO of Webcore told me this. Hey, Kevin, I know your product has value, but I got to tell you the real thing I'm buying it is to attract and retain talent. Mm-hmm. That is priceless. We can't hire, we want the best and we want to, retain them. How true is that? And you saw that with COVID. Look at all the nurses retiring. And that's the experienced ones. There are shortage of healthcare workers. There's shortage. So I love industries that are people that really operate society. They're building projects. They're treating patients, and there's a typically they're high priced. I don't like bringing solutions to market for $10 an hour, gig workers, right? I like bringing solutions to market, high price labor, which is healthcare and construction, 20 plus year labor shortages, ton of inefficiencies. It really still low technology adoption and digitization, and vertical software industries, so you can get that flywheel effect, right? Some of the fastest growing softwares are vertical softwares like Veeva in biotech. I was a former customer of them when I was in healthcare, because you get that flywheel of people in the industry are talking to each other. My first startup started a horizontal marketplace, all types of equipment rental. It was a lot of work selling to multiple different industries and the nuances of there. Focus is king, whether it's focused accounts, whether it's focused customer types, whether it's a focused, solution. And then you get that steamroll. You get those referrals and references.
Very good. Kevin, how have we done 45 minutes? I don't understand, but I'm talking about scaling and teams, hiring, building, and scaling teams. My first question to segue into this would be about how do you know you should hire a new sales talent? And what's there? Is there like a sort of like cadence or some telltale signs, indicators that might say, okay, we need to be in the market to hire someone? And how do you judge what set of skills at what skill level this person should be? Should they be like multifaceted? Should they be very particular, et cetera, et cetera? I know you will take it in a very good direction. So.
Yeah. So I guess one of your questions, sorry, those three questions in one. What was the first one? Sorry.
How do you know when to hire or increase your sales talent?
Yeah. So when to hire is typically when, as Martin was saying earlier, they can't even get to every account, right? They land some accounts, they're going deeper and wider, and all of a sudden these other great accounts or these leads are coming in and no one can touch them. And obviously, so I look at rep attainment. Are people hitting their goals, right? Hitting their goals, beating their goals, right? And that quickly becomes they're only working and expanding paying accounts. Okay. So it's market potential, right? Okay, great. Reps are hitting their goals. Is extreme high potential, and we're not touching all these greenfield accounts or accounts that look like that. So they should be successful, right? We have a handle on our forecast. We're confidently we can hit our numbers, and we're doing it in a scalable fashion. So that new ARR per head count, we're not overspending or burning, right? So it's just simple. Are reps hitting their goals, right? Are we not getting to the accounts that we believe we can sell today and be successful, right? Are we confident with our forecast? And are we doing it in a scalable model? Right. So that's why I'd hire. When I look at, the talent that we have, that's the thing I'm most proud of. I do what I do to change people's lives and careers. Over a 9-year period from PlanGrid through Autodesk, and Autodesk had 6+ M&As, a global pandemic, I lost one top talent who regretted it and wanted to come back. That's across like hundreds of people. And it's because I truly care. I care about them being successful in their job. I care about them being successful outside their job. So in sales, a lot of times people can burn out. There's travel, there's away from home. They can neglect maybe their partner, their kids, their own personal health. So I make it a clear statement that I'm investing, just like my customers, I'm investing them in the long term. It takes 6-9 months to ramp a new hire. It's a huge investment in time to hire, enablement, and can they pay for themselves? It could be a 12 to 18 month period, right? So you're making this investment. You want them to be a part of you for 3-4 years and beyond, right? So I want them to be successful, closing business and hitting their numbers, but I also want them to be successful outside of work. So making time to work out or do whatever keeps them balanced, right? Making time to pick up their kids from work, making time to take their partner out to dinner, right? Like finding that work-life balance, because it feels like a sprint, but it's really an endurance event.
Mm-hmm. Okay, Kevin, you want to follow up or some?
No, I was gonna say I can see the leadership here, and just to make the point that I think on since we're doing these go-to-market discoveries, a lot of the people we spoke to have actually been direct reports, I think, to you, Kevin, or some way involved. So, is there a secret to or like some strategies that you adopt to build up your salespeople, the people below you?
Developing and hiring, developing, and retaining talent is the lifeblood of any fast growth startup, right? And I'm very proud of where my former directs and step downs or individual contributors are today. It's amazing to see them impact the business at Autodesk, building out their construction division, leading the construction division, creating wonderful customer experiences. And I love seeing the folks that used to work for me spread their wings, Chris Parrish.
And Angel Invest and so as well. So
yeah, and Angel Invest. We have former directs, our VPs of sales, directors of sales at Document Crunch, VPs of sales at Planera, VPs of sales of Sewer.ai, directors of sales at Revisto, directors of sales at Snaptrude. The list, VPs of sales at Bridget. I'm almost losing track. Now they put in the hard work. I supported them, but that's the key. I hire not just what you do today, but your potential, right? Your potential for growth. If you are hiring for a fast growth startup and you're growing 50, 100% year over year, you have to grow 50%, 100% year over year, or you will be left behind. What you do today is not going to be good enough in 2 years. So I hire for those, I call always be learning, people that want to grow, want to learn. They have the intelligence to learn, but they have the drive to always learn and develop. It's been amazing to see how someone like Chris Parrish at Document Crunch, when he became the manager for me in Texas at PlanGrid, and then he finished up as a director at Autodesk managing a $100 million business. And now he's the VP sales at Document Crunch, going to do it again, right? Will Magnuson, the same thing, right? Going from leading a region, to now being a director of sales at Document Crunch, and at Autodesk, he managed a $100 million plus business, right? Dave Barden, same thing, the VP of sales at Sewer.ai. These are all people that started out at PlanGrid as top ICs, moved into management, moved into second line management, and then a director overseeing $100 million plus business lines at Autodesk. all the while selling a point solution, moving to a platform, selling larger deals, more complex deals, ripping and replacing the competition, to see them grow their skill sets, their leadership, their impact, seeing what they're going to do it again somewhere else. All those companies, all those founders are lucky to have the Scotland Fosses, the Luke Forrests. These are difference makers. And oh, by the way, they all have a followership, just like I do. The people that worked for us and grew their careers, they're coming back to work for us because we build high performing sales teams. We win. We have a ton of fun, and we build a great culture, a culture of top performance, a culture of winning, but also a culture of having fun and growing your careers, finances, and personal life, buying a new home, having your first child, putting your kid through college. So 100%, what I'm most proud is the people, how they've grown their skill sets, their impact in the industry, their careers, their families. That's what matters to me. And I'm so proud of those, of my former team, of my current team, to see their impact and growth. I'm actually working together now at OpenSpace with some people that I worked together. It's a small industry 10 years ago. They recently presented at our company kickoff around selling with value, driving a better renewal experience, going higher with executives. One of them has moved into product and, what are we launching and how we connect with customers. I mean, it legitimately brought tears to my eyes to see how they've grown as individual contributors to leaders, to senior leaders, was extremely moving. And that's what I love seeing, that professional growth. But you don't get it if you don't hire someone based on potential, that they have the fire in the belly to grow and get better. I can't teach that. So that's why, what do I hire for? Fire in the belly. Because I can't teach you to be self-motivated to grow. Get up in the morning, right? I'm not a micromanager. Here's the goal. Here's some out of bounds. Here are some of my playbooks to get to the goal, right? Hey, if you discover a new play that works, hey, that fuel innovation, bring it back and let's scale that out. Let's add it to the playbook. But I'm not going to micromanage you. How many calls, how many meetings you had? No, let's get to the finish line. How can I help you?
Mm-hmm. How do you spot people with high potential, with the fire in the belly? Is it during interview or a stage, or later on during the probationary period, the first few weeks, months? How do you do that?
I won't hire you unless I understand you have that fire. So, the VP of sales at Planera, he's Scotland Foss. He's someone I'll never forget it. I said, "Hey, Scotland, why do you want to join PlanGrid?" And he goes, "Hey, Kevin, I came from a failed startup. I was in healthcare sales as well. Which is a challenging market to sell to. This is not an easy, tech buyer, right? So I knew it was hard to sell to, right? Construction's hard to sell to. He did the work. It's in-person business. He landed and expanded accounts. So it's the right profile, the right selling motion. But I said, why do you want to work here? Well, my startup failed. I raised Series A, didn't go beyond that. I want to win. PlanGrid's raised from tier one investors, Sequoia, yourself and others. I want to learn from leaders, but I want to win. I want my next startup to be a win. As I say, don't maximize for money, maximize for success. If the company is successful, the money will happen. You will learn, you will grow, you will change your career forever, right? Someone that used to work for me started out at my BDR team and became a top strategic rep. He had worked at Autodesk before. He had worked at other Fortune 500 companies. He said to me a week ago, PlanGrid changed my career forever, because he grew so much. He learned more in 3 to 4 years than 12 plus years at a bigger company. You just don't learn that fast because it's not growing as fast, right? But Scotland had this drive, this hunger and grit and all the people I hired, because he wanted to win. So whether you came from a failed startup, which is a key thing from the Stripe founders, it's probably one of the reasons why Tracy hired me. My startup made it, but not quite enough. Yeah. Did I have the hunger and grit? I want to make PlanGrid successful. I treated it like it was my own company. I treated it like I was a founder, right? You want that ownership, that accountability. That's why I love putting people in the field to be the face. You own the business. You're the face of the company. You're the entrepreneur. You're the business owner, right? But you got to have that hunger and grit, right? Scotland had it. Dave Barden had it. Luke Forrest has it. All these VPs of sales that you're interviewing, they all got it. They're competitive sellers. They got the fire. They want to win. They want to support their team, and they want to provide for their families. But did all of them come from Salesforce? Absolutely not. They came from failed startups with moderate success. Maybe not the name brand Google, Facebook's, in Silicon Valley. Maybe they don't live in Silicon Valley, right? People want to hire in Silicon Valley, New York City. I hire everywhere in market. But what I love is all these markets that are underserved, like middle of the country. There's tons of great talent in the Midwest. There's tons of great talent in the central US. Doesn't mean they can pick up their life and move to San Francisco, right? They grew up in that area. They went to college. They got their family there. Hey, it's cheaper to raise a family. Picking up and moving, I was able to do that to San Francisco. I was young and single. I didn't have kids. Not everyone can pick up and move to San Francisco, New York City, or London. So talent's everywhere, hire everywhere, and that talent a lot of times is closer to your customer and can take back product feedback to development to be like, hey, there may be some regional nuances, right? A contractor operating in the Midwest, there could be some nuances to a big city on the coast and what type of work they're doing. So hiring everywhere, giving people that ownership mentality. But why are they joining? Is it to prove themselves? Is it their competitive drive as a former athlete? Is it to provide a great life for their kids, their family? But they have to have that drive. They have to have that competitive spirit. So, everyone that you're talking to, a former PlanGrid, right? Or former, as we merged, building connected, that we merged in and became a part of the team that I built. These people have the drive and the hunger. I know you interviewed Dustin, come on, he's got the hunger and drive, he's still going. So that, a lot of similarities between the building connected and PlanGrid cultures around hiring great people with potential, investing in them, that hunger, that drive to build something, and that really mission to provide value to the customer. Like, it's not about you, it's about the customer experience. Customer first and work your way back. And that just obsession with people that are on the front lines building and saving them time, saving them money, making their job better, more enjoyable is just what's core to the culture of both those companies. So you saw a real culture fit, and separate topic, but that's critical to M&A. Is there a culture fit? If there's not a culture fit, it's just never going to work. You're never going to realize that value. But yeah, you look for that hunger and grit. I avoid the tier one companies. Even now, do you want to hire someone from a Procore or Autodesk, right? That now they have established brands in the market. Are they leveraging their brand, or are they winning new logos and winning new markets and being the face of the company, right? Would I hire someone from Autodesk that came in through building connected pipe or PlanGrid, or came from that startup? 100%. They built that division, right? They helped build that. But if you've been in a large publicly traded company for 10, 15 years and you've been just kind of riding off this brand, that's not my profile. It's harder to win new accounts when you got no business, or people don't know you yet, or you don't have those references. So that's where that hunger and grit come in. Right? How are you going to make it happen?
Love it. I love it.
And Kevin, with that, I think it's a good time to ask why you joined OpenSpace.
Question number 5.
I want to ask because, like, my guess is that you had a few options, and you spent some time thinking. They negotiating with them, etc., etc. So I'm guessing it just wasn't like a quick, I'm going there. Or maybe it was. I don't know. Fill us in.
Yeah, no, I definitely took my time talking to a lot of different companies across manufacturing, industrial, and construction tech. Very humbled to get offers from many companies, to become their CRO, and great founders, great solutions. But the reason why I joined OpenSpace, I wrote a blog about it, but I actually met Jeevan and Michael and the co-founders 4 years ago. It was right after the Autodesk acquisition. I was, part of the M&A investment team, and I was looking at different potential investments. And I did my due diligence in that reality capture, project execution, space. And I determined that OpenSpace was going to be the winner, which you've seen happen over the years. Different competitors have gone out of business and continues to happen. Competitors or have been sold for nothing. So basically, gone out of business, and they've really grown, their revenue. But it was really meeting the founders. I saw the product. It was incredible, innovation and technology, leveraging geospatial AI. Incredible founders, MIT, Stanford, right? They have the tech chops. They got the product chops. They've, built and sold companies before, that maturity. But it was getting to know them over a couple of years. I built that trusted relationship, because when I join a company, I'm not joining for 1 year, 2 years. I'm joining for, you see my record, 4+ years. I'm committed. I'm all in. I treat it like I'm a co-founder. I'm the entrepreneur. Like I want it to be successful, right? So having that trusted relationship and getting to know, just like VCs, they're investing in something, they want to get it to know an entrepreneur over a period of time. Well, guess what? As an employee, you have a portfolio of one company. You don't have a portfolio of 5, 10, 20 investments. So you better be picky. You better think like a VC and do your due diligence. What are the founders? What are the investors? What do customers say? Right. And I heard time and time again from customers, wow, this reminds me of PlanGrid. It's so easy to use, adopt, and scale, but there's even more value. It just so automates documentation of a job site for 360, right? It helps us. Insurance companies are paying for it. One of the former founders of TradeTap is now the CEO and founder of Shepherd. We have a great partner with Shepherd where the insurance, they are actually contractors who have Shepherd insurance. They're paying for OpenSpace plus a 3x return on it. Then you have the value delivered by the product. I mean, this is a no-brainer. Insurance companies paying for OpenSpace because it's proven to reduce risk. Mm-hmm. And risk is one of the 3 pillars of this industry. I mentioned earlier, legal claims, lawsuits, just these are big budget items. So it's already proven to reduce risk. The other thing I kept, hearing from CFOs in the space, hey, Kevin, and owners, Kevin, it gets us paid for the work that we do and paid on time. Because if you're submitting a change order to a client, I was talking to a large healthcare system. They go, hey, the only, really change orders I approve if they send it to me in OpenSpace. Because, hey, I'm building the hospital, but I'm not I work for the owner. I'm not a construction manager, but I can see it, whether I'm on the site or not. I can visually see it. I can easily see it, see what's happening, why they're asking for more money, send it to my finance team and just approve it, right? So that owner-client collaboration about getting paid. I heard from subcontractors, hey, if I'm blocked or there's some damage preventing me to do the work, I need to document that in real time, simple and easy, so they can get paid for a change order from the general contractor. So it's really building that trust and transparency from an owner, GC, and sub up and down the stack. People are fine paying for change orders if, or paying for work if they know it's happened, and so you have to easily document that. The same thing is on insurance. Insurance companies are looking for ways to reduce risk. So I just saw these very big business values around labor productivity. You don't even have to visit a job site. You can do more with less, payments, insurance, and it just excited me. Those are really the 3 pillars of construction tech: payments, insurance, labor. These are things you can impact that are very big dollars and can provide contractors a lot of value. The 4th thing was the ability to actually use this as assets, to really document this data, even use it post-construction. So kind of project lifecycle. And we're seeing accounts use it from pre-construction to document job sites to correctly bid and win new work, to collaboration, throughout the project time, and then for the turnover to the FMM team. So the value across all the stakeholders of real money and real value delivered was very exciting. But I look for technologies that are used by the field. If it's trusted by the field, is it easily adopted by the field? That's where the value is delivered. If you can't adopt something, if you have to hire a ton of people to implement it or service it, that's not scalable either. Right. Oh, great. I have to buy the software. Now I got to hire this huge implementation team. So then the cost of that software goes up, but it's just like, is it going to actually succeed? Are you going to roll it out to 80% plus your jobs? Right. So if I'm an executive at a construction company, I'm thinking, great, value delivered, but is this a scalable solution? does this scale to all my projects? Experience with the tech, not experience, large, small? How long is it going to take me to roll it out? Is it going to take years and years for me to get the ROI? Am I ever going to see it? Right? So the fact that I saw this, my God, adopted across the company in 1 year, 80% of projects, I've never heard that stat before. Hey, adopted with, no type of services team or implementation team. Just give it to someone and go, right? Give it to the safety guy and document the subject. Like that is just something not heard of before. Owners saying, hey, I only pay for something if it's in OpenSpace. Easy. I can see it, right? It's just really incredible to hear those quotes. So I kind of view it as the easy to use and adoption scalability of PlanGrid, but with way more value delivered.
Oh.
So it's similar, but I view it as like a 10x return on investment. So I'm very excited to bring the solution to my former partners in the industry that adopted and bet on PlanGrid. Trust me, you're going to be taken care of. So I think it's just more value. So I'm just super excited about it.
Awesome.
Okay. So last one for me, if I may. Kevin, tell us, when do you think CEOs or founding teams should be looking for chief revenue officers? At what point?
Yeah, that's a great question. You don't really need someone like me till 5 to 10 million, right? And really, me is more closer to 10 million. Because really, as a founder, founder needs to be the best salesperson. So you need to honestly sell it for several $1 million. Maybe you have 1 or 2 salespeople that could hopefully grow into a frontline manager, right? Some ISRs, but founder needs to sell it. Man, Tracy Young, Ryan Sutton-Gee at PlanGrid, they were on job sites, right? I love the founders of Pipe. Man, Sunil, if you know him, interview him. He's one of the best salespeople. Man, he's going on site with customers because guess what? Salespeople are also the conduit to R&D. You need to listen. What are the objections? What are missing, right? I love Sunil from Pipe. Man, he was one of the best salespeople in the industry. Dustin Devon, same thing. Tracy was going project to project to sell, right? Like the founders have to sell. And then, great, hire some sales reps. They don't have to be senior and get some more accounts, get some more feedback, right? Get it closer to 5 million. And then when at 5 million, you're raising another round of capital, right? And you're probably either someone's grown into that kind of frontline manager role, or you're hiring someone with, a bit more experience, right? That has probably been a frontline manager. And hey, can that frontline manager become a director of sales, right? And grow with the company. As you get to 10 million, yeah, you start wanting someone with a little more senior talent to take it from 10 to 40, right? It's very common that someone takes it from 0 to a couple million. Then can they take it to 10 million? That's another stage of growth. Can they go from 10 to 40? Can they go to 40 to 100 and then 100 to 500 million? I've had the pleasure of from a startup entrepreneur from nothing to several million, then PlanGrid from 5 to 120, and then Autodesk from, 120 to 500. Right. But it's, you have to grow with that. And it was great to see my team grow, right? From a point solution to a platform to just larger and larger business agreements. But that's also not normal that people can grow and develop that quickly. But that's why you hire that always be learning, that hungry, humble, smart profile. But traditionally, you need to bring in new people at the different stages. So when PlanGrid was approaching like 10 million, yes, we hired and developed and promoted from within, but we also brought another senior talent. And that was another thing. You got to level up your org. You got to hire people that had been there and done that in marketing, in sales leadership. It wasn't just me. It was John Donahue, Thomas Ricks, other senior sales leaders, renewals, Nelson Webster, right? Chuck Haber, in CS, right? Sorry for messing up your name, Chuck. But but whether it's Chuck, Nelson, Thomas, John, these are all senior sales leaders. We built like a business got so big, we were all regional vice presidents of sales. It wasn't me. It was a whole team. So it was a combination of hiring, developing, and promoting from within, hiring B2B SaaS talent and teaching the industry, as well as bringing on senior execs that have been there, done that, and they can level up the whole organization, put the right organization in place, and obviously go higher to the C-suite. So it's really the frontline team, right? It's the this more senior exec. So there's a playbook around hiring profile, evaluating the talent. Do you have the right hiring profile? Do you have the right people? Bringing on, so developing from within or moving on from people. That's a reality too, right? I built 4 different business lines in Autodesk. It was a combination from promoting from within, developing from within, moving on, as well as hiring externally, But you also have to ensure as the company grows, typically what I see too, Martin, is the team that got you to 5 million or 10 million may not be the team that takes you to the next level. Mm-hmm. Now they may grow, but you got to start bringing some talent that have been there, done that, so you can avoid some of those mistakes, avoid some of the errors. And it's not just burning capital. It's just time. There's a window of time where people are really into your solution of solving a problem where they'll move on to the next thing. Mm-hmm. Right. So it's a combination of that hiring from within and bringing on senior talent. So, and at every stage of growth, you probably are bringing in some new talent that have been have seen it before.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Very good. Yeah. Kevin, I think that we run out of time. But honestly, thank you so much for joining us. Yeah, are you? We at the end of every podcast, we do like a little plug area where you can, if you have any initiatives, are you hiring for salespeople?
Yes, we're always going to be hiring from here on out. So we're hiring account executives throughout America's solution engineers. We're doing the same globally. We're hiring people in marketing, sales. We'll be eventually hiring more, customer success. We just, hired the leader to build out that team. But Beautiful. Yeah, we're in growth mode from here. We want more people interact with customers, boots on the street. It's going to be an exciting time. So, right now we're hiring, I say, difference makers, so we're, just in my first 90 days and still evaluating talent, still developing. Hey, just had some of our first promotions already internally. So I love promoting from within.
Nice.
But, we're being picky because as I get to know the business, hey, what are the priority hires? I call them difference makers, change makers, right? We already had some people join, Tommy Perveen in Asia, Jerry Payne. These are people that help build PlanGrid. We got more starting in the next 2 months. And so you got to be, that's another thing. When you're investing in talent, every talent should matter, should level up the org, right? Should accelerate growth, should accelerate the company and raise the bar, like expect more excellence. So every external hire needs to level up the org, right? So just take your time hiring talent, right? Be picky. So I'm being very picky, right? I'm prioritizing, where we need to hire first, but I'm building a pipeline at the same time. So I encourage if anyone's listening is interested in joining this rocket ship at OpenSpace, to apply online. Just, get your resume in because we may be hiring in your market or for a role that you're interested in 3 months, in 6 months, in 9 months. And I believe in building, long-term trusted relationships with talent. And hey, if you're a customer looking for a solution to drive more labor productivity, drive better owner-client relationships, reduce rework, get paid, reduce insurance claims, and just have a ton of fun partnering together, please reach out. We want to do business with you. We want to have you reach those business outcomes and have a ton of fun. So whether you're talent or customers, we're ready to do business and work together and win together. And that culture matters, right? And I think whether I joined PlanGrid, whether I stayed at Autodesk, who had a great culture, whether I joined OpenSpace, your earlier point, it's all about culture. It's all about building a successful culture. And that is, OpenSpace has a great culture. We're just going to grow the business even faster from here. So we're looking for top talent. We're looking to, to partner with new clients and existing. So please reach out and appreciate what you're doing, Owen and Martin, for the industry to, really help other entrepreneurs be successful, right?
Right.
Especially this go-to-market. That is the number one reason why some really promising technologies don't make it, right? Mm-hmm. I was talking to the CIO of DPR, right? There's a lot of graveyard in this industry, right? Mm-hmm. Where they may have a great technology, it may be solving a real problem, but they don't prove it out enough with enough revenue and enough customer examples to get the next round of funding. Mm-hmm. And then that no longer exists, right? So the reason why I love this focus on go-to-market is hopefully founders can learn, not just from myself, other entrepreneurs in the space, so they don't make the same mistakes of other founders. They learn some of these playbooks so that they can impact the industry. They can be successful and continuing on, because there's very few companies that have hit 100 million ARR. You can count them on one hand, right? there's a graveyard, as you said earlier in this industry, of 0 to 10 million, right? I want to see more companies be successful. This industry needs more solutions, but you got to integrate too. Don't forget to integrate, let's integrate. But yeah, you have to. There's a lot of opportunities to provide value for this industry. It's great that now you can get investment. There's dedicated funds. People want to invest in this industry, but you don't want to be one of the great examples of a graveyard. And you may have product market fit, but you need, what people don't, especially if as a founder, you're typically product and engineering. It's all about distribution. It's all about go to market. You got product market fit. It's build and sell. And if you build the product, that's the first step. You got to have product market fit. But if you don't learn how to sell the product and go to market, it's never going to work. So build and sell, go to market matters. That's why this feature that you're doing, interviewing a bunch of CROs and VPs of sales, is so, so important. The best product doesn't always mean you're going to be successful, or product market fit still doesn't mean you're going to be successful. It may ensure that you get to 5 million. It may get you to 5 to 10, but then you're in no man's land, right? You're running a capital and you no longer exist. So in order to go, as you said, beyond 10 million confidently and scalable, you got to figure out a scalable go-to-market motion.
Beautiful. Kevin,
Thank you very much
so much.